Happy Easter. My name is Jeremy Houck, and I'd like to thank you for making the choice to join us here at the Greenbrier Church Online. As we begin today, I want to start with a warning. We're working through the stories that Jesus told, and the story that we're looking at today is familiar. And that's a problem. I think we've heard this story so many times that we think we know how it ends. Our comfort is the problem because Jesus didn't tell this story to make us feel good. He told us this story to make us feel found. And there's a difference. I believe that one of the biggest problems we have in the church is that we take the most radical, offensive, scandalous stories that Jesus told and we make them familiar. We clean them up. We knock off the rough edges so that they'll fit on a greeting card. And in doing so, we strip them of their power to confront us and to transform us. When a story becomes familiar, you stop letting it confront you. You start thinking, yeah, I know that one. That's the one where the kid runs away, hits rock bottom, lives in a pig pen, comes home, and dad throws a party. But I'm convinced that we've missed the point entirely because we've misdefined the most important word in the story. We call it the parable of the prodigal son, and we assume that prodigal means wayward or rebellious. But that's not what it means. To be prodigal means to be recklessly extravagant, wastefully lavish, to spend until you have nothing left. And it's true, the younger son was prodigal with his money. He wasted it on wild living. He spent it all until he had to live in a pig pen. But really, that's just the setup. You see, I think the real prodigal in the story, it's the father. The story isn't about a rebellious son. It's about a prodigal God, a God who is reckless in his mercy, extravagant in his grace, a God who pours out his love on people who don't deserve it. So on this Easter Sunday, I want us to look at this story again, not as a familiar Sunday school lesson, but as a mirror. Because I don't believe that our resurrected Savior told us this story to merely inform us. He told us this story to confront us. Once again, let me set the scene because context is everything. Jesus is surrounded by tax collectors and sinners and the people that the religious folks would write off. Standing at the edge of the crowd are the Pharisees and the scribes, and they're grumbling because Jesus receives sinners and he eats with them. They meant that as an insult. Jesus turns it into his resume. He tells the crowd three stories, each one building, each one getting more personal. And by the time we get to our story today, he's not talking about sheep or coins anymore. He's talking about you. Jesus jumps right into the story with the youngest son's request. Father, eventually I'm going to inherit my share of your estate. Rather than waiting until you die, I want you to give me my share now. With that one statement, the family shattered. The boy basically says, Dad, I wish you were dead. I don't want your relationship. I want your resources. It's the ultimate family curse. The boy thought that his dad was worth more to him dead than he was alive. The father had every right to beat the boy publicly, to throw him out of the house with nothing. The community would have applauded him for it. But the dad doesn't do that. The father divides the property and lets the boy go. You know, there's something about this story that makes me a little uncomfortable. God still does that. I know we would prefer a God that locks the doors, who makes it physically impossible for us to walk away from him. Some of us have even prayed that for ourselves or for somebody that we love. But the God revealed in this parable is not that God. He's a God who gives us the freedom to leave, and he watches us walk away with tears in his eyes and love in his heart and a hope that we will return one day. It's a harder kind of love, a love that respects our dignity even when we're determined to destroy ourselves. And so the son heads off to a distant country, and that phrase matters because a distant country is not a place. It's a spiritual condition. It's anywhere that we try to live without God. And some of you watching are in a far country right now, and you haven't even left your zip code. You're living in a lifestyle, a relationship, a habit, or even a mindset that puts distance between you and the Father. And here's the thing about far countries. They're really good at making promises. They're just really bad at keeping them. The far country told the young man, you're going to be free, you're going to have fun, you're going to find yourself, you're going to finally live. And the far country delivered on exactly 0 of those promises. I've sat across from a lot of people over the years who left their faith, left their families, left the life that they built. They heard the calling of the far country, and it sounded so good. And almost every one of them, when they come back, say some version of the same thing. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Of course it wasn't. It never is. Our enemy's not an honest recruiter. He doesn't show you the pigs. He shows you the party. And then the money runs out, a famine hits, and a boy who was buying rounds for the whole bar is now feeding pigs in a field. He's so hungry that he's longing to eat the slop that the pigs eat. This is the absolute bottom. And I really believe that sometimes God lets us get to the pigs. And I know that sounds harsh, but I've seen it too many times to pretend otherwise. I've watched God love people enough to let them hit the bottom, because sometimes the bottom is the only place with enough traction to push off from. Eventually the party ends, the friends disappear, the fun stops being fun, and you're sitting in the mud and there's nowhere else to look but up. That's not God abandoning you, that's God refusing to give up on you. Some of you are in the pig pen right now. Maybe your marriage is falling apart. Maybe your bank account is empty. Maybe you're stuck in a secret addiction that you promised last year you were going to quit, but you're still hiding in the dark, feeling dirty. You feel like you've gone so far off the map that God couldn't possibly find you. But the pig pen isn't the worst place you can be. The pig pen is the place where you finally come to your senses. Verse 17 gives 7 of the most important words in the entire parable. When he finally came to his senses. He came to his senses. That's the turning point. Not when he had something to offer, not when he cleaned himself up, not when he had a plan, but when he came to himself. The far country makes you lose yourself, and that's the cruelest trick of all. You leave looking for freedom, and you end up losing your identity. You become somebody that you don't even recognize. And then one day, in the mercy of God, you catch a glimpse of yourself and you think, how did I get here? This isn't who I am. And so the boy prepares a sermon, a speech, a humble one. Father, I've done wrong against God and against you. I've forfeited any right to be treated like your son, but I'm wondering if you'd treat me as one of your hired servants. He's not asking to be a son. He's hoping for mercy and not expecting grace. That's repentance. Not just feeling bad, not just regret, a change of direction, coming to yourself and then coming home. And then he went from feeling remorse to real repentance. He got up. He went to his father. He didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't know how he was going to be received, if the door would even open. But he went. That awkward, shaky first step is the hardest step a sinner ever takes. Here's where the story breaks open. The father looked off in the distance and saw the young man returning. He felt compassion for his son and ran out to him, enfolded him in an embrace, and kissed him. Still a long way off, the father saw him. And there's only one way that a father sees a son from far away. He's watching for him. Every day, standing on the porch, looking down the road, day after day, the road is empty. Then one day, a figure appears in the distance. It could be anybody, but something in the father's heart leaps. That's my boy. And he runs. In the ancient Middle East, men of dignity didn't run. It meant pulling up your robes, exposing your legs, which was shameful for a patriarch. But this father is more interested in his son than in his own honor. He knows what's coming. When the villagers see the boy who disgraced the family, the shame protocol will kick in. They're going to mock him, chase him out of town. So the father runs to the boy before the village can get to him. He covers the distance. He absorbs the shame. He makes a fool of himself for the boy that he loved. How many of us have bought into the lie that we have to clean ourselves up before we come to God? We have to get our addictions under control, fix our marriages, straighten out our lives, then we can approach God. The gospel says that while you're still a long way off, while you're still in the pig pen, while you still smell like the farm, the Father ran to you. Grace always interrupts shame. The son starts his rehearsed speech. Father, I've done a terrible wrong in God's sight and your sight too. I forfeited any right to be treated as your son. But the father doesn't let him finish. He's already shouting to the servants. And maybe you've heard this list so many times, you skim right past it. Robe, ring, sandals, calf. Sounds like a shopping list. But those aren't just gifts. Those are items that are loaded with meaning. These 4 items represent a complete representation. First, bring the best robe and put it on him. Not just a robe, bring the best robe. This was probably the father's own robe, the one that he wore as the head of the household, the one that signified honor and dignity and authority. The son is returning home in rags or worse. He's already sold everything when the money ran out. The nice clothes probably went pretty quickly. He's coming home exposed, humiliated, and ashamed. To be without a robe was to be without honor. And the father looks at his son, the boy who wished that he was dead, who wasted his life's work. And he doesn't say, look at you. Look at the mess that you made. Instead, he covers him. The robe is grace. It says, I'm not going to treat you the way that you deserve. I'm going to cover your shame with my honor. When we come to God, we come exposed. We come with all of our shame. We come with everything that we've done, all that we hope that nobody ever finds out about. And God doesn't stand there with a clipboard documenting our shame. He covers us. Secondly, the dad says, put a ring on his finger. And this isn't just jewelry. This is a signet ring. It's the family seal. When the head of the house wanted to make a legal transaction, he used the ring to make it binding. It carries the full authority of the family name. The same son who had disgraced the family in a foreign country, the one who forfeited his right to be called a son, he's given a ring. The father says, you're my son, my name is your name, my authority is your authority. I think that's why Jesus taught us how to pray, our Father, not our distant creator, not our cosmic judge, but our Father. The ring says you belong. You have a place at the table. You have the full rights of a child. Thirdly, we're told that they put shoes on his feet. In the ancient world, shoes weren't about wealth, they were about freedom. Slaves, servants, they went barefoot. Sons, they wore shoes. The son had asked to be treated like a hired hand. The father ignores the speech entirely. You're not a servant, you're my son. Stop trying to earn what you can only receive. And I think this is where a lot of us get stuck. We understand the robe, we want our shame covered. We understand the ring, we want to be back in the family. We just don't really know what to do with the sandals. You see, the sandals mean we have to stop trying to earn it. We want to say, okay, God, let me make it up to you. I'll serve on the committee. I'll volunteer to work in the nursery. I'll give extra in the offering plate. And God says, just put the sandals on. You don't have to earn your place. You already have it. God's not hiring you. God is adopting you. And then the father offers the fourth gift. He kills the fatted calf and throws a feast where the whole village is invited. This isn't a reluctant father grudgingly letting the kid sleep in the attic. This is a dad who is wasteful and extravagant in his grace. He's prodigal with his love. I need you to see that the goal of the gospel isn't to get you out of the pig pen. The goal of the gospel is to get you to the party. God doesn't want to just clean you up. He wants to celebrate with you. He doesn't want to just forgive you. He wants to feast with you. And just when we think the story's over, when we're expecting our happily ever after, Jesus throws us a curveball. Because he's not just telling this story to the sinners, he's telling it to the Pharisees, and he's about to expose their hearts as well. Now, the man's older son was still out working in the fields. Notice that. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's working. He's faithful. He's dependable. He comes home and he hears music and dancing, and he asks a servant, "What's going on?" And the servant tells him, "Your brother's come home." And the older brother gets really angry and he refuses to go inside. He's at the door of the party, he just won't go into the party. Now, when you read that the older brother is angry, do you feel a little twinge of sympathy for him? Be honest. I think there's a part of all of us that thinks, I get it, I'd be mad too. I've been here the whole time doing the right thing and I didn't get a party. But the screw up comes home and they roll out the red carpet. How's that fair? If you feel that, you're not alone. But you're also revealing something about yourself, because the truth is that the older brother is just as lost as the younger brother. He's just lost in a different way. The younger brother's lost in the far country of rebellion. The older brother is lost in the near country of religion. He says to his father, "Listen, all these years I've worked hard for you. I've never disobeyed one of your orders, but how many times have you even given me a little goat to roast for a party with my friends? Not once. This is not fair." So this son of yours comes, this wasteful delinquent who has spent your hard-earned wealth on loose women, and what do? You butchered the fattest calf from our herd? There's real pain in that speech. Years of showing up, years of doing the right thing, and feeling that none of this is noticed. Nothing that I've done has mattered as much as the dramatic return of the one who blew everything. I think Jesus was looking at the Pharisees when he got to this part of the story. But I think he's also looking at the people in our churches who've been in the same pew for 30 years and quietly, secretly have started to wonder, does any of this matter? I want to be careful here. I love the older brother. He's not the villain. He's a deeply wounded person who's been faithful for a long time and who in this very moment simply can't find it in his heart to celebrate. I'm afraid that the church has the ability to look an awful lot like the older brother. Joseph Stalin once said, "The American church is long on mad and short on grace." We're mad at politicians, we're mad at the media, we're mad at the people who live their lives differently than we do. And we forget. We forget that lost people are going to sin because they're lost. The church is supposed to be a place where sinners gather and find healing and hope. We can't be grace givers if we constantly believe that we're superior to the people that need grace. And then, in one of the most tender moments of all of Scripture, the father comes outside. In the same way that he ran to the younger boy, he comes out to the older son. He doesn't send a servant, he goes himself. He goes to where the older brother is in his anger, in his resentment, in his confusion, his pain, and he says, "My son, you're always with me, and all that I have is yours. The older son has been working in the fields like he's a hired hand, when in reality, everything already belonged to him. He was living like a servant in the middle of his own inheritance, going through the motions, putting in his time, never really grasping that the Father's resources, the joy, the peace, the presence, the love, they were already his. Some of us are doing the same thing. We've been in the house, but we're living like a servant. And that's why there's not much joy in our life, because it's been a long time since we've come to the party of grace. The Father doesn't apologize for throwing the party. He doesn't say, "You're right, I went overboard." He simply says, "Isn't it right to join in the celebration and be happy? This is your brother we're talking about. He was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found again." Grace isn't fair. It's better than fair. Grace always interrupts your shame. And then the story ends. We don't know if the older brother went into the party. Jesus just leaves it hanging. And it's not an accident. I think the ending is still being written. You see, the parable is not primarily a story about a son. It's a story about a father. A father who divides his estate and watches one child walk away. A father that stands on the porch every day, scans the road. The father who runs. The father who covers shame and goes out to a resentful brother standing in the dark. This is who God is. This is what grace looks like. And the question that's hanging in the air for us on this Easter morning is, which son are you? Maybe you're the younger son. You've been in a distant country. You've made your life a mess. You've hurt people. You've hurt yourself. And you're listening today thinking, I've gone too far. God's grace has a limit, and I passed that limit a long time ago. You need to hear today that the Father's not waiting for you to get your act together. He's not waiting for you to finish your speech. He's already moving in your direction, arms wide open, robe of honor in hand, ring and sandals at the ready. Come home. Or maybe you're the older brother. You're in the church, you're doing the right things, but inside you're angry. You're keeping score. You're looking at other people who frankly don't deserve the love of Jesus as much as you do. And that's why there's this bitterness, a bitterness that you're not proud of. And you're standing outside of the party, you're hearing the music, missing the joy. The Father is standing right outside with you now, and he's pleading. He's saying, everything I have is yours. Stop working for my love and just start living in it. Easter is an invitation for us to come to the party, to let our brother's return be a reason to celebrate, not a reason to grieve. Because one day it'll be our return that somebody's celebrating. And one day we're going to need the grace that we're being asked to extend today. The invitation is for both sons. Stop trying to earn what can only be received. Stop standing outside the party. The Father's calling. The table is set. The question isn't, did you go to the far country? The question that the resurrection of Jesus asks us is, will you come to the feast? Will you come into the joy of the Father? Jesus was resurrected on the third day so that we could receive the grace that interrupts and covers our shame. That's what we celebrate on Easter. And that's what we celebrate every time that we go to the table. And so this morning, I hope that you have a chance as you think about the relationship that God has offered you. I hope you take the opportunity to really think about, do you want to be in the party? Do you want to come to the table? Because that's where freedom is found. I hope you have a wonderful Easter and a great week. I look forward to seeing you very soon. Never forget how deeply you're loved.